This is the Duane Lester Show. It's 8:05. Good morning, and we're Open File Friday. We're going over a lot of things that we haven't had a chance to talk about. I saw a story a while back about flock cameras uh, in Springfield, Missouri, and I said to myself, "Okay, what are flock cameras?" And so I reached out to some folks, people who've been on the show, like Spike Cohen, and I said, "Can you help me find someone?" Spike suggested Elizabeth Melton, who is with You Are the Power, and she joins us now. Elizabeth, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just get it right out of the gate. What is a flock camera, and why should I be concerned about it?
Well, flock cameras capture license plates of every single vehicle that passes. So when you're driving down the street, if you go down 3 or 4 different streets with flock cameras, they will capture your license plate and they will database that information. So that might not be a big deal if there are one or two here and there. But when you have a city that is blanketed with them, they are basically keeping a record of every single place that you go. And they even have functionality. The functionality for them is getting better and better all the time. They have AI connected with them. So there are even circumstances where if you have a flock camera and then a few miles down the road you have another and you pass one and you don't pass the second one, then they can make conjecture about all the possibilities of places that you could have gone in between.
Okay, so I've heard about the cops having these before, and the idea behind these license plate scanners is it similar to what the police have used in the past?
It is similar in that because police will have them like sometimes on their cars
Right.
and they're constantly scanning what is in front of them. But this has, because they're fixed, it has to do with location data. So it's not just running a tag to see if there are any warrants or anything like that on it. It is doing that, but it is also, there's a location component to that. So they know not only have they scanned your license plate, they know where you are and they know that at any given point in time.
So what is the justification for these? What are the cities saying who put these in? Like if I went down to Springfield and said, "Hey, why do you have flock cameras up?" What are some of the reasons that cities give for that?
Well, the primary argument is that it's keeping us safe, that
Oh
we're
yeah.
solving all kinds of crimes through these cameras. And that's not to say that there are not some crimes that are being solved. I'm sure that that is true. However, you could probably solve any number of crimes by violating people's rights. And so, that really is not a justification for having them.
Is this a privacy issue for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's getting to the point where in police departments do have one idea of this technology and how it's going to be used. City councils have one idea of it, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes is usually the case when you have a technology that you want to use or anything that you want to do. The proponents of it are going to tell you a certain degree of information, but you're not going to get all of the information if you don't have a devil's advocate there who are telling you the downsides of it. So there's an incredible amount of data collection that's going on here, and they have that data, they possess that data. So if I go down to my local police department, they will tell me, well, we only keep this data for 30 days. Well, that's the police department. We don't know what Flock is doing with that data. We don't know how long they're keeping that data. And they actually have been caught in the past where there are like local organizations or local councils or police departments and they are um, saying, like, turning off data sharing. We're going to keep this data in the community. We're not going to share it with other agencies. And Flock has been caught like violating those contract terms and just sharing it with whoever wants it. And that's another part of this is you might be in Missouri thinking, well, we're looking at this information in Missouri, but it is all networked because there are other or businesses, I should say, like Fusus, that actually network information. So someone in, um, you know, Los Angeles, California, could potentially have access to watching what's going on in Missouri.
Why would they do that?
Um, that is a very good question. There are, uh, well, let's just say that there are just some people that want to have a great degree of power, and 24/7 surveillance of everybody, that's a great degree of power to have. But there's also a financial component to it because, you may have heard that that data is the new oil and gold.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Data is very valuable. And the more you have it, the more pervasive it is, the more money it's worth. So I would say power and money are the two drivers behind it.
Is this in any way related to Palantir, or do, are they related at all? Because when I hear what you're talking about, I'm like, okay, this has some very strong
So
surveillance state creepiness.
yeah, so the founder of Flock Cameras, his name is Garrett Langley. He basically it's a garage startup company. Their initial funding came largely from Peter Thiel with Palantir.
That makes sense.
So yet they are very, very closely connected.
There was a time when you would say, okay, well, they've got all this data on everybody, and there's no way. But what are you going to do with it? Nobody can go through all that stuff. And now I look at what I can do at my house with ChatGPT or Claude, and I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. All you have to do is plug it in there and have your AI review everything, and it could create a
Yes,
searchable log that would have everything that went on that day. Now, this bothers me, and I know it bothers you.
right, right. So there is a new component that they're developing to this. Is called Flock Nova. And if you look at the branding of Flock Nova, their logo is look um, look once, see everything. At least that's the gist of it. I might not have those words exactly right. So basically, Flock Nova is aggregating a lot of data so that you can look up a particular license plate. If you're a police officer, you look up a particular license plate, Flock Nova will allow you to have all kinds of information about at least the person that car is registered to. So, um, any websites that you visited, any search histories that you've done, any criminal record that you may have, education, even your private health insurance is not really private. Um, so yes, that police officer then has power to see all kinds of information on you as an individual through Flock Nova.
Just
Uh,
looking at,
there's
I'm sorry, looking at Flock
yeah,
Nova's
like
website. Yeah.
dark web type of stuff.
They
Yeah.
say what I see on Flock Nova's website is search once, act faster. But what I see as I scroll down is this is 24-hour multi-state operation. But there's 70 trafficking victims recovered. Is that the idea of it? Is that you basically got this uh, eagle eye out there looking for criminals, and that's the idea that with this technology we can find the people using, I don't know, facial recognition software.
Well, the that is the argument that they use to sell it.
Okay.
Now, there have been police officers that have been arrested all over the country for using flock to stalk their exes,
That's
to stalk, you know, to harass people, to use it for corporate espionage.
wow.
Um, and they supposedly have these little, procedures in place, checks and balances. Recently, I think it was in Hernando County, I believe, Florida. There was an officer that was arrested for abusing the flock camera 200 times. Well, how did you get to 200 times if you have good checks and balances in place?
Right. Right.
Um, they couldn't have arrested him after abusing it one time. So if this is the people that they're catching, then how many people are abusing it that they are not catching?
The irony that they are watching everywhere we go and tracking us that way, and that they have us basically from their own website under 24-hour surveillance, but they can't surveil their own users until they reach 200 violations is staggering to me. We've got a few.
Well, and then, yeah, and then there's the argument that what are some of the most surveilled places in the country? That would be prisons, correct? But yet
Except
we know
outside
all
Jeffrey
kinds of
Epstein's,
things.
except outside Jeffrey Epstein's cell. We don't watch that.
Yeah, yeah. So if you still have all sorts of crime that goes on within the walls of a prison,
Yeah.
though they have surveillance everywhere there. So yeah, they're not going to be doing a very good job of um, surveilling the public. They're not going to get rid of crime this way. But yeah, even their own checks and balances, they don't do a very good job with those.
We talk a lot about don't trust the government here on the show. And yesterday I was making the point, or was it the day before? We were talking about Eric Swalwell and what's going on down there. And the fact that so many people are coming out now and saying this was an open secret. We all knew about this. What does that have to do with flock cameras? You have to remember that this sort of thing, this sort of behavior isn't restricted to Congress. It isn't restricted to the federal government. There are people who will do those things on the local level. And if we give them that power, what you're talking about are people with that power who are stalking their exes. And that is a dangerous power to have, to be able to know where they are at all times and where they've been and where they frequent. That's a scary amount of information to give someone who has nefarious intent.
Well, and that is, you're looking at like domestic people. One thing about these cameras is they have proven extremely hackable. And yeah, there have been so many people. Ben Jordan comes to mind, who has gone out and shown, do you see how you can hack this camera? 404 Media is another one. They have actually been able to tap into the camera. I had someone here locally in a street light camera that turned on a GoPro, and the Bluetooth hacked into it inadvertently, and she
Accidentally.
was she was looking at herself through the surveillance camera.
Okay. Listen,
So imagine
we've
if
got
a
to
foreign,
we've got just a few minutes before I got to take a break. But can you stick around after the
okay,
break and we could talk about how we can fight against these in our communities?
sure,
Okay.
sure.
This is the Duane Lester Show on KNIM Talk 95.9, talking with Elizabeth Melton about flock cameras. And if you haven't heard about them, stick around because we're going to talk about how to get rid of them in your community. Because once you hear about them, they are not something you want going on. Stick around. Hey, this is Duane Lester Show. Welcome back. It is 8:25. Good morning. We're talking with Elizabeth Melton from You Are the Power about flock cameras. And these cameras seem to be everywhere tracking people. Elizabeth, I want to read this to you because while we were talking, you pointed something out. And so I did a quick Google search. Reports from March 2026 indicate that Israeli intelligence spent years hacking into nearly all of Tehran's traffic camera network to monitor Iranian leadership, which ultimately facilitated the assassination of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. And you're saying that somebody just opened a Bluetooth next to one of these and was able to hack it.
That is correct.
This seems like,
Well,
from a national
I should
security issue,
specify.
this seems terrifying.
Right, right. Now, I should specify that that camera was a streetlight camera, but yeah, people hack into the flock cameras quite easily.
Wow. Okay. So what I'd like to talk to you about is, in Springfield, Missouri, they have these. How could folks in Springfield who wanted to get rid of them?
Well, so another organization that I work for is Banish Big Brother. Um, and there was a gap here because we have a lot of people that are out there educating people about it. But generally, people will say, well, gosh, this is horrible, but what can I do about it? So we saw that there was a need to help people learn how to approach their local government, their city council. And so we can do that by helping people form local chapters at banishbigbrother.com. And then there are different strategies. There's a toolkit that you can download that will help you to have different scripts and things that you can use to approach your city council, because there are different angles that you can use to do this. One way is that people that implement this, they don't think about the fact that it could potentially be used against them. And it has been determined that flock camera data is a public record. So some places, like in Washington State, there was one town, they started just requesting through Open Records Act requests flock camera data. So you start doing that on the sheriff or the police chief or your mayor, and they become alarmed by that. But a judge upheld that it was a public record, and it led to a town disabling their flock camera system.
So, surveillance for thee, but not for me.
Right, right. But
Wow.
there is a precedent now that it is for you too, because right, the gentleman that requested the data, the judge says, no, um, you've got to supply this because it is a public record. Now, of course, they said, well, we delete the data after 30 days, so we don't even have the data anymore. But it was an important step.
Right. And so as soon as they said that, they're like, "Oh, well, we need to get rid of these then," because I don't. It seems like the elites there, the government's like, "Oh, we don't want this for us. We just wanted it for the little people. Now we have to get rid of it."
Right, right. And this is something that you have to help them to realize that when once this infrastructure is in place, you kind of lose control over, or who you lose control because you don't know who's going to be in charge of it down the road. So maybe you trust your sheriff and you know, my sheriff would never do anything like that. But you don't know who the sheriff is going to be 20 years from now.
That is true with so many different things, and we always think, "Oh, well, our side, we'll use it for good." Well, the other side might not. But Elizabeth, I'm sorry to cut you
Right.
off. It sounds like
No problem.
this is a great way of doing this, of getting rid of them. I thank you for being here. I got to wrap this up, though. It was a great conversation about flock cameras. I'd love to have you back on to talk about more about what your other organization is doing, because I abhor the surveillance state. Thanks for being here.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks.